St James's Park. Alan Shearer statue. Not the best statue you've ever seen. It's good apart from he didn't look like he's got any teeth. Born 1970. Highest Premier League goal scorer in history. The club was founded in 1886 and, believe it or not, started off its times in red and white strips, and the story was in 1892 they played Notts County and they didn't have a spare change of tops, so they swapped with Notts County, who were black and white, so they become the black and whites. So they did start in red and whites, is the story. The man behind us is Bobby Robson. Became the manager and took them into Europe, which, considered they'd never been in Europe for any length of time, was probably the glory days after the Kevin Keegan days. One of the biggest acolytes we can say from this particular football club is a guy called Arthur Wharton. He was the first ever black professional footballer in the world. He played for Newcastle United in the late 1800s, and believe it or not, there's a statue and a picture of him in FIFA headquarters in Geneva. Behind me is the Gallowgate End, which is called the Gallowgate End because that's where the condemned prisoners used to come from. The sentence is just behind the stadium as it is now, down to the town mill where they would be hanged. Just like when football players at Newcastle don't score much, the same type of thing happens now. Here we are at the People's Kitchens, which is for the homeless shelter in Newcastle, leading up to the new university complex in Newcastle. Massive change in the last probably 3 years to 5 years. It's fantastic what they've done up here. Student accommodation, so fabulous. Here we come in, it is Stowe Street, Chinatown in Newcastle. Established in 1978, where the Chinese restaurants from around the town were encouraged to settle. And on a match day on a Saturday night, normally this is absolutely thriving. You've got Rosie's Bar, Little Asia, the Landmark, Red House. Some great restaurants up here, and everyone in the North East comes here for celebrations and such like. Probably best come here when it's not COVID lockdown time, because on a night it's lit up fantastic. There we have it, Stowe Street. Just behind Stowe Street is Blackfriars, which is the monks' accommodation, dating from the 15th century. Pretty well preserved, and it's also a restaurant now. So here we are at the Bigg Market, which is part of Granger Town. The Bigg Market originally was a market for selling what was called in the old days Bigge, which is a type of oats. So this area has got a lot of markets: the Bigg Market, Flesh Market, Pier Market, and they're all licensed by the council. And this street here on a Friday, Saturday night is legendary around the UK as one of the party hotspots, the Bigg Market. Here we are, just out of Granger Town. Granger Town was one of the big town planners in Newcastle, and he was responsible for producing plans for the city in the early 1800s. Here we come to the incredible railway station in Newcastle, built by John Dobson. Fantastic building inside, which I'll take a look shortly. So here we have John Dobson's 1852 finished Newcastle Central Station. Quite a thing for me because the great-great-great-grandfather was possibly worked here. He was listed as a railwayman. That was grandfather Willis, who lived in Gateshead nearby, listed as a railway foreman. So he most likely came to this place of work every day, which is, even now, it's in phenomenal condition. The architectural standard is brilliant. It's coming out of this train station to the Station Hotel, which is just been renovated the last few years. The Royal Station, I stayed here a couple of times. Here we are at the Minor Musician in Newcastle, just off Orchard Street. This is to commemorate the mines from the northeast. In the northeast there was up to 400 mines which exported up to 400 million tonnes of coal up until actually 2020 was the last shipment of coal from the port of Tyne. This is the Literary and Philosophical Society building in Newcastle, just near the train station. This was where Robert Stevenson was the president, and he was the man who was the inventor of the steam train. Again, was designed by one of the architects of this city called Benjamin Green. He designed and built this amazing building. In fact, just across here there's a blue plaque which confirms Sir Joseph Wilson Swan. He was a chemist from Sunderland, and he demonstrated nearby here the first incandescent light bulb in the world. And in Greer Street, which you'll see soon, was the offices of the Swan Company, and incredible to think it was invented in this city, in this town. So here I am at the Stevenson statue off Morsi Street, and Stevenson was the inventor of the steam engine. And basically, this chap here was the man who helped the world become the world we know now. And around the side, see for example, there's the steam train which he invented. And another statue around the main Stevenson statue, which is shown he's holding something. I think that's something to do with maybe it's a light or an electrical experiment or something. And sort of Greek-like statue of a philosopher. Yeah, one man in his lifetime managed to achieve so much for himself in the world, this town. Here we are at Greer's monument to celebrate the life of Charles Earl Greer, who was the man part of the instrumental in doing the Reform Act in 1832, which meant the laws of the land were then attributable to all common people, not just the landowners. It was built by John Dobson in conjunction with Benjamin Green. And if you recognise the style, it's the same style as the one in Trafalgar Square of Horatio Nelson. And it sits at the top of Greer Street, probably one of the greatest streets in Britain's been in the top 5 for many years, and probably equal to Regent Street in London. And Richard Granger, who designed much of Granger Town in this part of Newcastle, he was born from a man who worked in the Quayside just down the street here, and it just shows you from humble roots, if you want, you can achieve. And he helped design and build this street with the help of Benjamin Green and also John Dobson. And there's a John Dobson Street, a Granger Street, a Green Market, a Granger Market, all over Newcastle to commemorate the guys who did this. Here we have the plaque which commemorates the building of Greer's monument, paid for through public subscription, completed in 1838. There was a time capsule buried underneath the foundation stone containing the drawing of the monument and the subscribers to the monument. As you can see from here, he was a member of Parliament. He was born in Northumberland, educated at Eton and Cambridge, and became the MP for Northumberland in 1786. And he also was involved in the slave trade abolition. That's where the English, which took over the Act in 1807, in 1833 Acts, and massive influence on the world we live in today. Charles.St. Earl Greer. So here I'm at the top of Greer Street near Greer's monument, and this place now, which is Byron Burger, which is at the top of Greer Street. You'll see these inserts in the windows all along here. And these inserts are there because this was Joseph Wilson Swan's offices in Newcastle. And again, he was the man who invented the incandescent light. From Sunderland, and himself and Edison in America were deemed to be the joint creators, but whatever, Edison took his design, so worked that one out, and the company eventually became Philips in 100 years later or so. Here I am walking into the Central Arcade. This was again Granger's plan, constructed by Dobson and others, and in its day this must be one of the, probably equal to places like Bath and places like York. Just a magnificent spectacle actually. Look at that. Look at that. Oh my giddy aunt, fabulous. One of my connections with this place was one of my favourite singers, Bob Dylan. Can be seen when he used to tour UK, he was in Newcastle, and he bought a jacket in one of these shops, because I've seen the photograph. So I came in a bit of a pilgrimage to see it, and sure enough, Central Arcade, Newcastle. It's as close as I get to Bob Dylan. It's close enough for me, that's good. Heading down Grey Street towards Theatre Royal. Theatre Royal was designed by Benjamin Green. Again, one of those three guys, Green, Granger and Dobson. It wasn't the first one, it was the second one. So you have it, the Theatre Royal in Newcastle, designed by Benjamin Green. And the very first play here was a Shakespeare, the Tempest I believe, or Taming the Shrew, and also appeared virtually everybody who's been an actor in the last 200 years, including Charlton Heston in 1988. Coming down the bottom of Grey Street to Dean Street. And one interesting fact about the bottom of this street is underneath there's actually a river called Lauterburn, and it was covered up when they made this street, and they contended not to cover it up, but at the end it was. So underneath Dean Street is a river called Lauterburn. Traffic-free zone at Dean Street now. One of my favourite bars, the Crown Posada. Here I am at the Black Gate, which is right on the promontory, Newcastle. There, Tyne Bridge is just down there, and this bridge was built on what was called the Pons Alius, which was the term the Romans had for Newcastle in originally 1080s, 1090s, that type of time. And this part of the gate was a gate into the castle. It says here about 1250. So that's where Newcastle got its name, the Newcastle, built on 3 bridges, which I'll see shortly. Here he is, soon to be wedded Bing. Go on lad, Bing. There we have it. I'm on the Millennium Bridge, looking at the trilogy of bridges in Newcastle on Pons Alius Bridge, which was Hadrian's Bridge originally. This road here is still called Hadrian's Wall Road. So we have the first one, which is the Tyne Bridge. Inside the sides of each of the Tyne Bridge, on the left hand side, there's elevators there, which were originally for passengers, but they're not in use now. Then you have the swing bridge, which is brilliant because that red bridge there changes to follow the direction of the river, and it allowed the ships from Armstrong's tank works to come straight over the Tyne, straight out to sea. Then after that you got the high level bridge, which on the bottom was the railway, and on the top is the car bridge. So fantastic, 3 bridges all at once. And the Sydney Harbour Bridge, if you look at the Tyne Bridge, is the same design. I'm not sure which one's coming first, but they're the same designer. So here I'm at the Quayside, which probably 30 years ago, if anyone came here, this was a massive market, which was particularly on Sunday, stretched from the bridge there all the way down. And back in the 80s there was a boat there called the Tuxedo Princess, which was a floating nightclub, which I can tell you was one of the best nights you'll ever have in your life. With a jazz deck at the top and underneath the revolving dance floor. Let's just say it was a fantastic place to be in the 80s and 90s on the Tuxedo Princess.